Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What has lost its prestige in recent years? The term breaking news. It has no meaning anymore since they overuse it. My favorite is still when Con ran the breaking news that Titanic sunk 102 years ago tonight. What? Oh my God, I had family on that ship. They were traveling third class. I hope they're okay. News headlines in general are all in clickbait form now. Supreme Court gives devastating blow to Democrats instead of putting the subject of the ruling in the headline. Mom looks in child's diary to find this in it, etc. It's all just competing for clicks now. Breaking news. We want you to care about this issue. The term luxury pertaining to newly built apartments and condos. The construction gets subcontracted out, so you know they've cut corners. The walls are paper thin and the finishes are cheap. They charge exorbitant rents, then nickel and dime the tenants with fee. Oh, you want to have a pet? That's a fee. You want to use the amenities? That's a fee. You want to move out? That's a fee. Want to move out on a weekend? That's double the fee. The term luxury has been rendered meaningless by real estate developers. Encyclopedias. Used to be that having the full set of Encyclopedia Britannica was a bit of a status symbol in the middle class. Kids who had it were envied by their peers because it made projects, etc. so much easier. Dead as the trees used to make it. Pre-internet was a wild time. On a lighter note, Etsy. A decade ago, I knew I was getting a handmade product when I shopped on Etsy. Now it's just the same cheap knockoffs from China that I could get from Amazon for half the price. Actually, I just bought my husband a handcrafted wooden pipe for Christmas and promptly discovered that it was on Amazon for $20 cheaper.
Would have been nice to have kept that extra $20 if I'm getting a cheap product anyway.
And it sucks so bad for those of us who actually handmade our stuff on Etsy. We get drowned out by the top sellers who are just reselling things they got on wholesale. Yeah, I was hand-making rings out of skateboard and giving them to friends. Everyone says you should sell these, so I listed on Etsy. I'm not under the illusion that my stuff should have sold like hotcakes or anything, but I just didn't get clicks. My price was competitive, photos were good, just no one really even got eyes on them. The platform is flooded with junk. I've been wishing they'd add a filter Alibaba types in the search engine, or at least lump identical products into one page, like on Amazon, where 200 listings with the same Chinese Photoshop images could be grouped into one. All that's different is the vendor names. Just put them on one page with separate options. Most of the sweatshop dropshippers use the same images. There's no reason Etsy couldn't do an image search and catch all these, then ban the accounts. They went public a few years ago though, and now growing users is a big part of their stock price. So of course, they let all the shitty scammers thrive. This is a good one. From handmade niche crafts to hot garbage. In addition to the Amazon shit, there's a trillion screen-printed shirts churned out of someone's basement and that awful bridesmaid font plastered onto some hunk of plastic. Girl boss, etc. Yup. Amazon itself has been shittified. Search for anything, and it's the same mess of 5-letter bullshit brand cheap trash. Uno, Engo, El Payoj, Depage, Depan, Ira. That, and when I search for specific things, it shows literally anything even remotely associated with it. Fucking Amazon. And all the non-Chinese garbage is counterfeit. I stopped shopping at Amazon for most things and went back to brick and mortar. It's absurd how much the cheap Chinese crap has hijacked Amazon listings. If I go to the filters, there's almost always a 3:1 or 4:1 ratio of those brands to legitimate brands. It's ridiculous. Bridesmaid font. I've been searching for a way to describe that wretched font and you nailed it. Thank you. Also, Etsy is basically just a front to dropshippers now. So you get an AI-generated design that gets printed somewhere, boxed and shipped to you, without the creator of the store having to do shit besides run the store. I bought a baby blanket a few years back, and it was shipped in the Amazon packaging with 2-day Prime, reported the seller. My wife quit Etsy BC. These cheap Chinese sellers dominate the market by flagging all types of competition, and Etsy just bans them. My wife has had it with them constantly flagging her handmade purses and clothes down, flagged for sexual explicit content. It's not. Now she sells exclusively on Mercari and Facebook. Etsy is just like eBay. You have to investigate the seller a bit and the product before buying. Still plenty of great things on Etsy you can't get anywhere else. Airbnb used to be able to get fair prices on non-hotel styled room stays, but now it's overpriced and hits so many fees, it's cheaper to go to hotel. We haven't used Airbnb in years. Hotels are always cheaper where we go, and higher quality with more guarantees. Urban has become a joke. Also Uber, same reason. Uber was originally an impressive experience. They offered water bottle, mints, phone charger, no tip necessary, etc. Now they're driving while having speakerphone convo, and all the cars have shitty suspension. The internet. It's all bots and ads. The glory days of the net were awesome. True wild, wild west. Now your entire digital life is tracked and history bought and sold in an attempt to get you to buy stuff. Corporate chills truly ruin everything nice. The internet died many years ago. Young people will never know what it was like. Doctors. I'm a doctor. We're mostly employees now, cogs in the wheel. There is also a lot of distrust in the medical system. I'm in Run, and I mentioned to a doc I was completely disposable, and our company didn't care about us nurses. He said, "Oh, I am too. We're all dispensable. I guess we're all cogs in the machine after all." Fellow doc here, this Exxon 1000. Admin sellouts can die in a fucking fire. I know a few docs. Mentioned that many would have chosen a different vocation if they'd known. I'm not kidding when I say many of them are absolutely fucking miserable and trapped by their own decisions. Well, when you get into a career to help people and some faceless corporation tells you that you can't help people because it would hurt your profits, it makes a ton of sense you would be miserable. Dentists. Practices I trusted would have a great dentist. Then they'd leave the area, and wham, suddenly I need a 5-egg teeth straightening kit. My insurance won't cover before they ill-fill my cavities. Fuck that. Every designer brand. People may argue that they were never worth it, but at least back then they cared about quality, materials and craftsmanship. Now it's all about mass marketing and ever-increasing prices for lower quality. Not to mention people who flex on social media made it even more tacky. I have lost respect for so many brands, which at least saved me some heresies over the years. The lower quality nowadays is terrible. I bought classic designer clothes in the 80s, and my daughter wore them 30 years later, and they looked new. She bought some of her own, and the quality was garbage. No more. No more. Dentists. Practices I trusted would have a great dentist. Then they'd leave the area and wham, suddenly I need a 5-egg teeth straightening kit my insurance won't cover before they ill-fill my cavities. Fuck that. Platinum Amex. By extension, airport lounges. Everyone has access now. When everyone has status, no one has status. I flew on an American domestic flight some years ago, and between all the membership tiers and credit card holders, by the time they got to general boarding, it was literally just me and one other passenger. Everyone. It was a full flight, but 2 passengers on a 200 capacity plane technically had priority boarding. Just Amex in general, I feel like used to be more exclusive to get any card from them. Eating out was a huge thing back in the 80s. Like it was an event, so was going shopping to the mall store. And the type of eating out, Red Lobster, Olive Garden, and this vein of chain, sit-down restaurants, were considered a fancy night out, at least in my working class circles. Some of the places that are terrible now, Ruby Tuesdays, Cheesecake Factory, Applebee's, Outback Steakhouse, used to pretty good. Then they started optimizing costs and reheating frozen pre-cooked meals with subpar ingredients. Blizzard. Blizzard used to be a paragon for gamers. I'm not saying they were perfect, but you could consistently count on anything they produced to be of pretty high quality. It felt like everything they put out came from a team that genuinely cared about what they were doing and had some of the most soul of any titan in the industry. Now everything they put out feels hollow. Between the blatant bait and switch of things like Overwatch to Killing KV and the rampant monetization of all of their games, to the recent controversies coming out of the actual offices of Blizzard, the spirit of the original studios are gone, and it feels like a hollow shell of its former self. The presidency, I am not trying to have a political debate. Maybe I was just young and naive, but I remember the presidency being more respected than it is today. Like even if you didn't respect the president, you're still respected the presidency. That shit is long gone. Same. I was around for Reagan, both Bushes, Clinton. They all seemed so powerful. Then I became an adult, and they're all a joke. Consumer goods in general. It's all shrinkflation garbage now. No more buying an or mid-tier product to avoid planned obsolescence or dirt quality. They're all junk, aside from certain brands' higher-end models, which took a dive in quality and price hikes too. Every item in the grocery feels lighter. Every box or plastic housing, an item smells like it'll give you cancer. Everything is fused, shut, and proprietary. Every company is squeezing us dry while they make record profit. And here in the States, we all have great free health insurance for the blow, back in 10, 20 years, as it all chips away at our literal biochemistry. Right? Facebook. That lost its appeal about 10 years ago when people's parents started signing up. Dead as fuck to young folks now. Lol. As an OGFB user, I see it as a place where the crowd aged with time and kids didn't want to mix in with a crowd 10, 15 years older than them. Netflix. Their originals at first were trying to emulate Abel, and now their originals are all bottom of the barrel garbage that only get 2 seasons. Being a university faculty member used to be a place of deep thinking. Now it's a rat race of publishing ill-thought-out word vomit. There are several good faculty members, but the rate at which this trend has grown, coupled with how toxic a lot of these professors can be, has really decreased my respect for this role. Edit. I didn't expect anyone to see this, but since it looks like they are, I'll add this. 15 years ago, I'd look at a faculty member and think that's who I want to become. Now I look at faculty member and think God knows how many grad students and postdocs you abused this year. This is another reason why there is a big loss of respect. Somehow, they think being somewhat decent at science, engineering gives them the right to treat people like crap. A friend of mine got his AT with the dream of teaching at an elite university. He attained his dream, and within a couple of years hated it. His colleagues were a bunch of backstabbing, elitist, nasty, lying, phony people who spent far more time tooting their own horns and believing their own hype than doing anything of real merit. He got out, did private research for a while, and eventually started his own consulting business. Never looked back. Walmart. 20 years ago, they were a strong competitor to Walmart. Now they only have 3 stores left in the entire USA. North Face. They used to make really good cold weather jackets and clothes. Their quality has definitely fell off since they sold off to F. Now it's more of an outdoorsy, quasi-fast fashion brand. Reddit and the internet in general, with the rise of AI pictures. It's going to be a wasteland of AI-generated rubbish in a few years. A 6-figure salary. With recent inflation, $150 is the new $100. Mainstream media outlets. Anyone under 40 who watches major news networks. The boomers are keeping them afloat for now, but it's only a matter of time. Seems like movie sequels lost a bit of their oomph, you know. Not all, but some. Like, why do we need 20 installments when the first one was X? This sub has become hot garbage. No kidding. To find one good question, you have to dig through a sea of riposts and sex-related questions. Call of Duty. Marvel. The Infinity Saga was great. Since then, it's just been the dumbest, most boring shit ever, and the ratings tell the same story. Remember when Marvel movies were actually about their protagonists and stories at hand? Now every Marvel movie is a commercial for another Marvel movie that never pays off. Worse, they're degrading all of their characters by making them incompetent shells of their former self. It's simultaneously cynical and shallow. Face tattoos. It used to mean you've killed a person. Now it means you work the afternoon shift at the local coffee shop. Gucci, Elv, etc. are now all worn by the trashiest losers on earth, who are also broke and spend all their money on it. This is new. People have been using these gaudy, visible brands forever to posture, and I remember thinking this almost 30 years ago. Journalists. Old people. Specifically, the idea that they are so wise and therefore should be in charge, and their words ingested as truth. Graduate degrees. 25 or 30 years ago, someone with a master's or doctorate was considered above the norm. Now, master's degrees are a dime a dozen. Many people have them as the minimum for employment. I mean, fewer than 15% of people have a master's or higher, which is double than in 2000, but it's still not the norm. The presidency of the US. Tesla. Everyone in my tech-heavy city owned one the first few years they came out. 3 years later, you drive one and people look at you like you have leprosy. I've never seen a car literally shit the quality bed as frequently and consistently as Tesla. The Supreme Court.